Hi crocheters of the world! In this tutorial I want to show you how to crochet this beautiful scarf. To crochet this scarf you need to know how to make a cluster double crochet, 3 double crochet cluster for the borders and the Solomon's knot. Now to begin, you can work this scarf with any kind of yarn, wool, thread, anything. And I'm working this scarf because it's not ready with a cotton and viscose yarn, very nice yarn. It's a look like silk, very soft and nice. And the one that I will work here in this tutorial, I use a cotton and acrylic yarn, soft, and a 3.5 millimeters hook. But as I said before, you can work it with any kind of yarn and hook that you want. Now, of course, it's better to work with a soft yarn and maybe a thin yarn. Okay, now to begin we just make the slip knot and chain of 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and slip stitch to join into the first chain. Now chain 3, and this is our first double crochet of our first cluster. Now this is the second double crochet and the third. Okay, now close them together with a chain 1 to secure. Now chain 3, and let's make another cluster, 3 double crochets cluster. So 1, 2 and 3, and we want to close them together and chain 1 to secure. Now again chain 3 and again another 3 double crochets cluster. So for the cluster we don't want to close the double crochet, we work only a half of the double crochet, and we have 3 loops on our hook plus the one from the chain 3. Yarn over, pull through all, and chain 1 to secure. And now this is what we have. And now chain 5, you will chain 5 to begin each of your row, so you will not count it as a stitch. 3, 4, 5. It's just to begin to turn your work and to begin another row. Now into the next row we will begin actually with the pattern, and we will work 2 Solomon's knots. And as you can see, we have Solomon's knots that connect the fan stitches and the border. And we always use maybe better, we always work 1 Solomon knot in between the fans and the border. So to connect the fans and the border, the fans between them and the border, only when we want to actually into the every fourth round we will work 2 Solomon's knots in between the border and the first fan stitch, and so on, because into each of our 4th row we will open other motifs. Our main motif is the fan stitch, so the fan motif actually, So into the first part of the explanation, I want you to be pay attention of the how is worked the fan stitch, because it's very important, and then of course how to connect them and so on. So I chained 5, and now into the chain 3 space, one cluster, chain 3 and another cluster. This is the border. Chain 3 and another 3 double crochets cluster for the border. Okay, now as I said, we will work 2 Solomon's knots, 1 and 2, not very high. Okay, and into the next chain 3 space, work the border, so 3 double crochets cluster, chain 3 and another 3 double crochets cluster, 1, 2 and 3, and close them together, chain 1 to secure. And this is what we have so far. Now in between our 2 Solomon's knots we will begin our fan stitch, the first row of our fan stitch. But first of all, chain 5, turn and work your 2 clusters divided by chain 3 space. So 1, 2 and 3. If you don't know how to crochet the cluster or Solomon's knot, or I don't know, you just go on and search on YouTube. There are plenty of tutorials. I will not waste the time here for to explain these basic stitches. So chain 3 and another 3 double crochets cluster, and now as I said, in the middle of this Solomon's knot, so into the single crochet here, we will work the first row of the fan stitch. But first of all, as I said, 1 Solomon's knot to divide the border from the fan motif, and in the middle of these 2 here, work 1 double crochet, chain 5, 3, 4, 5, and into the same single crochet another 1 double crochet, and this is the first row of our motif, fan motif. And now to finish the row, another Solomon's knot to help us skip into the chain 3 space of the border, and into the chain 3 space, of course, 3 double crochets cluster, chain 3 and one more 3 double crochets cluster, 2 and 3, and chain 1 to secure. And this is what we have so far. So here we have our first motif, our first row of the first fan motif. Here it is. So double crochet, chain 5, double crochet into the same stitch in the middle of these 2 Solomon's knots, and this is the way that we will open other fan stitches. So as you can see, we have 1, then 2, then 3, 4, and so on. Okay, now chain 5, 3, 4, 5 to turn your work, and into the chain 3 work your first cluster. So these 3 double crochets, chain 1, chain 3, and 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Join together and chain one to secure. Now again, just one Solomon's knot to skip into our fan motif, and into the chain 5 we will work 10 double crochets, and this is the second row of our fan motif. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so 10 double crochets into the chain 5 for our motif, fan motif. Now again, Solomon's knot, just one Solomon's knot to skip into the chain 3 of the border and to work our border motif. So 3 double crochets closed together, chain 1 to secure, so first cluster, and then chain 3, and again 3 double crochets closed together for the second cluster and chain 1 to secure. Now chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and turn. And let us work our third row of the fan stitch motif. But first of all, into the chain 3 space, work your border. So for the border, it's the same thing all along the scarf. So we begin and end the scarf, the row, each row with the same motif, which is one cluster, chain 3, and another cluster. Okay, now again, one Solomon's knot to skip into our fan motif. And now work into each of your 10 double crochets a 2 double crochets cluster plus chain 1. So 1 and 2, close them together and chain 1 to secure, plus another chain 1. Into the next, the same thing. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, close them together, chain 1 to secure, plus chain 1. And we go on like this for 10 times now, because we have 10 double crochets and we work this into each of our double crochet. 1, 2 double crochets, close them together, chain 1 to secure, plus chain 1. So it's the chain 1 to secure plus another one, okay? So it's not enough, the secure chain of the cluster. We need to work one more chain, don't forget, because it's important. Okay, so actually we go on and we work 2 double crochets, cluster, chain 1 to secure, plus another chain 1. And again, 2 double crochets, chain 1 to secure, and another chain 1. So on. Now here we are, we have 2 more double crochets to work in. So 2 double crochets, chain 1 to secure, chain 1. And into the last 1 and 2 double crochets, close together, chain 1 to secure, and chain 1. And now the Solomon's knot, one Solomon's knot to skip into the second border, okay? 1, 2, 3, now 3 double crochets, close together, chain 1, then chain 3 in between the 2 clusters, and work your second cluster of the last of the border. Okay, I have my 3 double crochets close together, chain 1, and this is what we have. Now, as I said, we have here 2 Solomon's knot, and we began here our first fan motif. Then we work 1, 2, 3 rows of our fan motif, where we worked to skip from the border into the fan motif 1 Solomon's knot, just 1 Solomon's knot. Can you see? 1, 2, 3 for 3 rows. Now into the 4th, as I said, into each of our 4th row, we want to work 2 Solomon's knots in between the border and the fan stitch, and then of course as we go on in between the fan stitches, and of course again at the end in between the last fan stitch, a fan motif, and the border. And in these 2 Solomon's knot we will open into the next row other fan motifs. So chain 5 to turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn your work and work your first border. So 3 double crochets for the first cluster, chain 1 to secure, chain 3, and 3 more double crochets for the second cluster into the same chain 3 space. Close them together, chain 1 to secure. Now, as I said, we are into the 4th row, so from here I am counting from where I worked my, so from the 2nd row, because the 1st is just the let's say preparation row, so we don't count it. This one is the 1st when we worked 3 clusters, so I don't count this. From the 1st row where we worked 2 Solomon's knots, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3, 1, 2, 3. Actually, this is 1 with 2 Solomon's knots. Then we count 1, 2, 3, and into the next, which is the 4th, 2 Solomon's knots. So 1 and 2. Now skip into the fan stitch and work your 1, 2, 3, 4th row. Into the chain 1, insert the hook in between the first two clusters, into the chain 1. Work a single crochet and the chain 3. Skip into the next chain 1 and single crochet and chain 3. Into the next chain 1 and single crochet and chain 3. Into the next one, single crochet, chain 3. Into the next one, single crochet and chain 3. Into the next one, single crochet and chain 3. Into the next one, single crochet and chain 3. And into the next one, single crochet and chain 3. And into the next one, which is the last one, in between the last two clusters here, just single crochet, and we have 8 chain 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you must have 8 chain 3 spaces for this 4th row of the fan motif. Okay, good. Now we began the row with 2 Solomon's knots. We want to finish it with 2 Solomon's knots, because actually we open in these 2 pairs of Solomon's knots, we will open 2 fan motifs. So into the chain 3, work your border. 2 clusters divided by a chain 3 space. 1, 2, 3, and the last 3 double crochets cluster for the border. Okay, chain 1 to secure, and this is what we have so far. Now here into this row we have to begin our our 2 more motifs, here and here. So I worked the border already, and now that's why I said it's important to know the rows of the fan stitch, so how it's made, because actually into the 1, 2, 3, 4th row where we have to work our chain 3 spaces, 8 chain 3 spaces, we have to put 2 Solomon's knots in between the fan stitches and in between the border and the fan stitch, and the fan stitch and the border at the end. Now of course here we have only one, but I am talking about explaining this about all of our pattern. Okay, so we'll have 2 and 3 and 4 and so on, and we will have to work 2 Solomon's knots in between the fan stitches too. Okay, as we go on with the pattern. Okay, now 1 Solomon's knot to skip in the middle of these 2 Solomon's knots and to begin our next fan stitch fan motif with the same pattern. So 1 double crochet, chain 5, 3, 4, 5, and 1 more double crochet in the middle of these 2 Solomon's knots. Okay, and this is the first motif that we opened into this row, and we have to open 1 more, but now we will continue on working this fan. So 1 Solomon's knot in between the 2 motifs, fan motifs. So this is one and this is the second one. Skip the first chain 3 space and into the second chain 3 space work a single crochet, chain 3, then into the next single crochet, chain 3, 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 and into the next single crochet, and we will skip the last one too. So into the second 5th row of the fan motif we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single chain 3 spaces, because we skip the first and the last chain 3 space of the previous row. Okay, so 5. And now we will repeat what we just worked here. So Solomon's knot to skip in the middle of these 2 Solomon's knots and to work the first row of the fan motif. So 1 double crochet, 3, 4, 5, chain 5, and into the same single crochet in between the 2 Solomon's knots, 1 more double crochet. Solomon's knot, 1 Solomon's knot to skip into the border and continue on with the border. I have already began my next row with the border, because you know the border is just something that we have to repeat for all along the pattern. Okay, now what we have here, we have 1, 2 motifs, opened motifs, and 1 that we have to finish. Okay, now 1 Solomon's knot to skip into the first fan motif and to work the second row of the fan motif. So 10 double crochets, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Now one more Solomon's knot to skip into the next fan motif. So as you can see, we use the Solomon's knots to connect the fan motifs through by them, and to connect the first fan motif with the border and the last with the last border. Okay, with the next border, how can I say, the second border. Okay, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the 6th row of the fan stitch, because we don't haven't finished yet the fan stitch, the first fan stitch. We skip the first chain 3 space, we insert the hook into the next, and we work 1 single crochet, chain 3, 1 single crochet into the next, chain 3, 1 single crochet into the second to last chain 3 of the previous row, and that's all. We skip the last 2. So we have only 2 chain 3 spaces into the 6th row of the fan stitch motif. Okay, so I want to repeat. We began with 1 double crochet, chain 5, 1 double crochet into the same single crochet in between the 2 Solomon's knots. Why I am repeating this? Because we have to repeat these for our shawl, and not shawl, it's actually, you can make a shawl too. I just want to make a scarf, but it's an open work, so you can go on and make it a shawl if you want. Okay, then into the second we worked 10 double crochets into the chain 5 space. Into the next third we worked the 2 double crochets clusters plus chain 1, and then into the fourth, from the fourth we began with the chain 3 spaces, and we skipped 1. For the first we worked our chain 3 spaces into our chain 1 spaces in between the double crochets clusters here. Into the next we skipped the first and the last, and we had 5 chain 3 spaces, and into the last, this is the last, so there are 3 rows of chain 3 spaces. Okay, and into the last we skipped actually because we already worked it, the first chain 3 space and the last, and we obtain 2 chain 3 spaces. Okay, and that's all. Now again Solomon's knot to skip into the next fan stitch motif and to work our 10 double crochets, then another Solomon's knot and the border. Okay, so actually we repeat the beginning part. Okay, so go on and work. I will work it by myself, and then I will be back to show you how to continue on with the second row, with the next row. So I worked the border, the Solomon's knot to skip into the next fan motif, and I worked also the fan motif, the third row of the fan motif too, because now we know. That's why I said that you have to focus of the fan motif, how to work your fan motif, because I will not repeat the same thing. I just want to go on and to explain now how so the structure, how to go on with the structure of the triangle. So you need the triangle shape of the scarf. So you have the fan motif and the Solomon's knots. And we are working. Here we worked 2 Solomon's knots, and we opened 2 more fan motifs. Now this is the 1, 2, 3 rows with just 1 Solomon knot in between the motifs. And into the 4th, so will be the next, we will open another fan motifs. But first of all, we want to close this one. So the first one, like this. 1 Solomon's knot to skip into the fan stitch and into the single crochet here in between the 2 chain 3 spaces here, just a single crochet and a Solomon's knot. And now we can say we finished our first fan motif. Okay, now we skip into the next fan motif and we work the cluster part. So 2 double crochet cluster plus chain 1, okay, into this one. So the third row. I just wanted to show you how to finish it. So 1 Solomon's knot, single crochet in between the chain 3 spaces, so into the single crochet in between the chain 3 spaces. Just want to focus in a little bit, zoom in a little bit. So here into the single crochet in between the chain 3 spaces, 2 chain 3 spaces, single crochet and another Solomon's knot. And now just go on and work your third row of the fan motif. So the clusters, the 2 double crochets cluster plus chain 1 into each of our 10 double crochets. Then at the end 1 Solomon's knot and the border. Now I will be back to show you how to work your 4th, because we have 1, 2, 3 from this one. So I don't count this with 2 Solomon's knots, I count this with 1. 1, 2, 3, and the next row will be the 4th, so we will open 3 more fan stitches, fan motif. So I finished the row, I chained 5 and I'm working the border now. And this is the 4th row. 1, 2, 3, and another cluster. Oops, 2, 3 for the border. And now, as you can see, this is 1, 2, 3. So I don't count these with 2. Where we opened these 2 fan motifs. I just count these with 1 Solomon's knot in between them. So 1, 2, 3. And this is the 4th. So into this we will open 3 more now, because we will open 1 in the middle too. So 2 Solomon's knot, because we want to open a fan stitch. Now we work then the chain 3 spaces in between the chain spaces here, 8 chain 3 spaces, row of the fan motif. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am counting the chain 3 spaces. 6, 7. Oops. Here, and 8, and yes, here we are. Okay, so I worked the chain 3 spaces, the 8 chain 3 spaces, and now I am here where I finished my first fan motif, and I will work 2 Solomon's knots. Okay, so now you just figure out how to open new fan stitches in the middle too, not only on the border. Now skip into the fan motif and work the same thing. So the chain 3, the 8 chain 3 spaces. Okay, and from now on we just have to repeat the same thing to open more and more fan stitches and to go on with our scarf. 1, 2, 3, and here we are. Now here at the end we want to work 2 Solomon's knots, 2, 2, and the border clusters, 3 double crochets together, chain 1 to secure, chain 3, and one more 3 double crochets together for the last cluster, chain 1 to secure, and 3, 4, chain 5 to turn. Okay, now as I said, we have to repeat, so we will repeat what we did here into our Solomon's knots, 2 Solomon's knots, or here into our 2 Solomon's knots. So we will begin here, here, and here 3 more fan motifs, and we will work 3 more rows until we will open another motif. So we will work 2 Solomon's knots. So only when you open another fan motif, and which is into the 4th, each of our 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you see? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in each of our 4th row, we work 2 Solomon's knots because we want to open more fan motifs for the open work triangular. So here I am. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 motifs opens here. Can you see? So I have 3 here in the middle and 1 on one side and on the other side. Okay. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, just 1 Solomon's knot. 1, 2, 3, and into the next 2 Solomon's knots. Okay. So the border and then we just work our Solomon's knots in the middle of our our fan motifs in the middle of the 2 Solomon's knots. 1 Solomon knot because now we are into a normal row, and in the middle of these 2, first row of your fan motif. So 1 double crochet, 3, 4, 5, chain 5, and 1 more double crochet into the same stitch. Then 1 Solomon knot. So actually we work only 1 Solomon's knot in between the motifs and the borders. Only into each of 4th row we work 2 Solomon's knots because we want into the 5th to open more fan stitches actually. And now I will skip the first chain 3 space, single crochet into the next and chain 3, single crochet and chain 3, this is the second chain, single crochet and chain 3, this is the third single crochet and chain 3, this is the fourth single crochet and chain 3 and single crochet, and this is the fifth, and we skip the last, and another 1 Solomon's knot to connect with the next, which is here. We will work into the in between these two. So again, 1 double crochet, chain 5, 3, 4, 5, and 1 double crochet. Okay, and the same thing then we just have to repeat. So 1 Solomon's knot and skip into the second chain 3 space of the motif with a single crochet. Okay, so it's really easy, like a pattern, so it's not difficult. I think, I hope you will understand it, because it's not difficult and it's really nice. Okay, so this is what you have to keep in mind, how you work the fan motif. And another one important thing, that into each of your fourth row you open more fan stitch motifs. Can you see? You open, actually you work 2 Solomon's knots. You open the motifs into the fifth, each of your fifth row. Okay? But you work 2 Solomon's knots into each of your fourth, because into the fifth you open these fan stitches. Okay, hope I was clear with this explanation, and yes, that's it. See you at the next tutorial.